Boyd.
Here.
Nelson.
Here.
Ginn.
Here.
Ebelthwaite.
Here.
Ashante Alexander.
Here.
McCullough.
Here.
Curtis.
Here.
Mosley.
Here. I'd like to start off by being led in prayer by George Ann Hibblethwaite and pledged by Key again.
Heavenly Father, we thank you for this opportunity to meet in these chambers tonight to serve our city and her citizens. We ask that you continue to watch over all of our employees, our first responders. Please return them safely home after each day and each shift to their family and loved ones. We ask that you watch over our servicemen and women, whether they serve here or abroad, for without their sacrifice, we would not be free to join in these chambers tonight. We ask these things in your name, Father. Amen. Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. We'll start off with some citizen comments. There's a 3-minute time frame. I have a little timer up here. First one is Steve McLean.
This?
Yep.
Okay. Yeah, thank you for letting me come and speak with you all this evening. I am the manager of Legendary Bicycles here on Chickasha Avenue, and I was told that I'm not the only person in town that has noticed a pretty big increase in the homeless situation, and that's what I'm here to talk about, is how many people we get into the shop who are appear to be okay.
You have our attention.
No worries. Appear to be homeless. I don't know for sure if they are or not. It's not like they're carrying a card saying I'm homeless. They just seem to be. None of them are creating any kind of a nuisance for me. However, I have talked to other store owners and managers who have complained about that. The biggest problem that I have personally, and I'm looking for guidance, and that's not necessarily here, but at some point in the future, is where can I send these folks to? Is there a place I can send them to? You know, they come in, we have a free coffee machine, they'll come in and get a cup of coffee, which is fine. And certainly we're not there to cause them any kind of grief, they're not causing me any kind of grief. It's just there are some who come in and they're obviously troubled. I've had one gentleman in particular come back repeatedly. He'll seem to be fine, and then suddenly he's leaning over a counter and he's sobbing his head off. You go to ask him if there's anything I can do for him, and he'll straighten up, and because he knows I'm about to try to help him or something, and boom, he's out the door. And then, of course, he'll come back a few days later. Anyway, it would be good if there was something. I'm new to this area, so I know that there's the Resurrection House. I've been told that they have a 2-step kind of a program there, I guess. It's kind of, if they need help, you can send them there for just the night, and if they can, you know, decide they want more help, there is more help available there. I know about that, but I'm not sure exactly how to go about sending them there, and hoping that there's some kind of card maybe you could give them. I don't know. I really don't know. I just wanted to express a concern along with the other folks in town that are having the same problem. So thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, Kathy Tibbetts.
Hope the mic works well. Okay. I've been a hairstylist in this area for 40 years. My husband and I also own and manage rental property in Chickasha. I'm accustomed to working with the public and in season to all types of people. On March 24th, An extremely violent and enraged homeless female entered Spruce Salon, a barber shop at 2001 South 6th Street. She demanded I call the cops because I was going to need them, and they might as well be on their way. I dialed 911, and then she told me afterwards that she had a gun. I was terrified. This individual was blocking the only door to the small 200-square-foot salon. I was only 8 feet from her with no exit and only a keychain-sized mace for protection. On her own, she exited the salon a few minutes before police arrived. She was met by an officer outside. He spoke to her a few minutes, and she walked on while he drove away. I never got to speak about the gun or explain the situation. This was just not acceptable to me. I have since been down to the police station and worked my way up to the chief looking for answers as to why she was let go and a report not submitted. 3 days later, the chief sent 2 officers back to the shop to take a report and begin the trespass paperwork, of which I both requested myself. This individual went to First National Bank drive-through just that morning and to the accountant's office in the same block on the same day right before me, acting in the same psychotic manner. The accountant has followed through with a report as well. I have looked up Ms. Hurley on ODCR and found 2 pages of incidences that were on her record, ranging from protective order, public intox, theft, and assault. How many business people have gone through similar situations and their voice not be heard? Chickasha is finally growing and so many positive things are happening. Please, council, let's find a way of why and how all these people are arriving here and come up with a plan for how to keep our public places safe for all. Each week, more and more of our customers are asking us about all these people walking around town. Let's make a plan sooner than later so we shall not scare away new residents or potential investors in Chickasha. Thank you, council, for your service.
Thank you. Allison Schindler.
Hello all, my name is Allison Schindler, and I have been a business owner in Chickasha for 25 years. In the 4 years that I have been in my business, my personal business now that I have owned, there's been several business disruptions by homeless, mentally ill, and that is why I'm speaking today. I'm generally not shy of confrontation with these sort of people. However, in my personal experience with a homeless man that seemed mentally ill, he was extremely forward and made customers in my business very uncomfortable. I had to be very assertive and demand that he leave and not return to my business. I said, this is not the only disruption that we have had. As my coworker just said, that's her own experience. This happens all the time. I happen to not be there then. I'm requesting that the council consider placing some mandates or rules, some education or funding to resolve this problem. It's very well known. As she stated before, people ask constantly, where are all these people coming from? Why do we have so many more that are disrupting businesses? In these times, we all know that things are difficult. We cannot afford to lose business because of the disruptions and people being fearful to come into our businesses. We currently have to lock the door between each customer so that they feel safe. And if something isn't done, it's inevitable that the problem is just going to be an increasing problem. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Gator Powell. Evening.
Most of y'all know me. I own a convenience store outside of town here on Highway 19. According to my phone records, next month will be a month. I've been talking to one of the gentlemen up here. I've been trying to get the potholes and the street fixed. I have potholes. I have pictures that's being passed out right now, I do believe. I mean, these aren't little potholes. These things are 12 inches deep and 3 inches wide, and it's tearing up my entrance to my store. I've owned this store for going on 9 years. I've maintained this road 98% of the time. The city of Chickasha has only been on it 2 times. Once when I fixed it with 30 tons of millings, and within a week they came in with the motor grader and cut it all out and took it down the street. I come and talked to the mayor at that time, and they had a discussion, and they came out and fixed it. This has been 2 years ago. Now, it's just millings. It's not a permanent street, but they keep telling me that they're waiting on a roller to come put all these millings down and pack them right. Well, middle of February, they rented a roller and used it a half a day and parked it, turned it back in. My street was never touched. I ran into a lady the other day in Walmart and asked her how she's been, because I hadn't seen her in quite some time. She said, I've been fine. And I said, well, did I do something to make you mad? How come you haven't been coming to my store? She says, I can't afford to tear my car up. My car drags across these. If y'all would, please, tomorrow, next day, any day after that, drive out by there and turn on to Suddenlink Drive and just drive down it. You will see what I mean. I'm talking, the Ninnecall School is called on it. The post office is called on it. The trash company out here is called on it. And I've called on it numerous times. I do believe, sir, right? Yep. Numerous times. And nothing is getting done. I've resourced all my material at my house. Y'all know I was in construction for 35 years. I've put over 45 to 50 tons of millings on that road myself and maintained it along the side of my store. And now I'm out of stuff. Had surgery. Wife won't let me get in my backhoe. I can't maintain it till the doctor releases me. And I need something done. I'm losing customers. And I'm serious. Look at the pictures. These aren't little bitty holes. And next month will be a year. I've been talking to a gentleman up here, and I'm not getting nothing accomplished here. I'm losing customers, and I need some kind of help. Either, my taxes are being paid. I pay my city taxes. All I'm asking for is a smooth street to drive on. Thank you.
I think Skater.
Thank you.
Okay, council communications, presentation by Interim Chief Gigi Music. Thanks, sir.
Council might recall last October 17th, council chambers were pretty well packed. I believe there was 31 people in attendance, from 31 citizens specifically in attendance. That night, 13 people spoke. 11 people, citizens of one particular neighborhood, spoke specifically about issues in their neighborhood. October 27th, we held a work session. During part of that work session, Chief Tony Santiago and myself addressed council. And going back and looking at our data, I actually confirmed what the citizens of that neighborhood said. Crime was out of sorts, or at minimum, perceived crime. So on the 27th, I had over a 2-hour meeting with one of the citizens. She spoke that night. And we also discussed during that meeting Neighborhood Watch. We discussed a lot of different things. And a 2-hour time frame is not a lot of time to try to bring a citizen who is not a law enforcement person completely up to speed. But I tried to encourage her and to educate her on the reasonable person standard that the law is based upon. On November 14th, went back to my department and was able to draft what I call a neighborhood task force. We have a violent crime grant that's provided to us through the Attorney General's office. It's called Safe Oklahoma Grant. I knew of no better program than to try to create under the terms of that grant. Neighborhood task force, I wanted a lieutenant, a sergeant, and a patrol officer to be involved. I asked for volunteers and I got those 3. In a private meeting between the 4 of us, I gave them their marching orders, and one of those things that I said was, you go old school police. I'm not talking about beating people, I'm just talking about the way we used to do things. And I said the complaints will come and I'll address the complaints. And if they don't get satisfied on my desk, the city manager can take care of the rest. On December 8th, the first Neighborhood Watch meeting was held. The lady that I spoke to for over 2 hours, plus one of the women that spoke that night at council, held it at her home. There was 25 in attendance, plus one of our sergeants who was nominated and actually volunteered to be the police liaison. The very first thing that we did within the neighborhood was we conducted a lighting survey. If you recall, the citizens repeatedly talked about lighting in the neighborhood. What we found was 40 street lights, and council, that's a 32 square block area. 40 street lights, every one of them working. 39 of them are the LED style. Only one of them is the old halogen type. The LED style street lights, and I have pictures here for you as well, are much brighter, but they leave darker spots between street lights. December the 11th, I spoke with several friends of mine that actually live in that neighborhood, and every single one of them said, well, we believe things are better. But we continued to work in that neighborhood. Almost every single night after council, when I would leave here, I went through that neighborhood. So whether it be 8 o'clock at night or 9 o'clock at night, I drove through it. I drove through it every morning on the way to work, sometimes 5:15, sometimes 5:30. I spent time in that neighborhood. So what I wanted to also let you know is some statistical information. Last October, if you'll turn to page 4, I provided you with our call types, the number of calls, and the number of reports. At the top of that page, that's what I gave you last October. If you look down at some of the statistics, what I gave you then was 12 months prior to October 22nd. But what I want you to see is in the last 6 months, and yes, I just selected a few call types, but in the last 6 months, 911 calls are up. That happened in that neighborhood predominantly because those people involved with Neighborhood Watch are excited. They want to call. They're encouraged to call. Not necessarily 911, but regardless, we had a huge uptick in calls. Domestics are down 57%. Excuse me, 14% annualized. There was no change to any weapon calls. Burglaries are down 29%. Suspicious activity calls is up 36%. Vandalisms annualized are down 57%. Assaults are down annualized 45%. That is only in that neighborhood. If you look over the next several pages, what I did was through our, it's called Command Central, but it's through LexisNexis. I put a pin basically in the center of that neighborhood, which is 9th and Texas. I gave it a quarter-mile buffer, and I said, how many 911 calls have we had? And there they are. So you've got several visualizations where you can see roughly how many and where the calls are coming from. If you'll turn over to page 11, what I want you to know is in that neighborhood, the work that we've been able to accomplish thus far. 19 arrests have been made, either on warrants or probable cause. The bulk of the arrests have been based on warrants. The offenses included public intox, possession, burglary, obstructing, disturbing the peace, trespassing, domestic A&B, no state DL, assault and battery on peace officer and resisting arrest. There was one tremendous use of force where every officer on the street was utilized, and it was a mess. Nobody was injured. Since this has become a topic for almost a year now, you should know that 2 of those 19 people arrested claimed they were homeless. One arrested for second-degree burglary, the other one arrested for a traffic offense. So only one violent crime. The very last page, I went ahead and gave you some additional data. I've already told you in that 6 months how many calls for service we responded to. In that exact same 6 months, outside of this geographical region, outside of this neighborhood, we responded to more than 4,500 calls. So at least the way I look at it, it's easier for me to think calendar year rather than fiscal year or any other date range. So I want you to see almost in the middle there, you got calendar year 2022. The number of assaults, burglaries, domestics, drug abuse, DUIs, EDs, overdoses, homicides, rapes, etc., that your department responded to. In calendar year 2022, we responded to more than 10,000 calls for service. Year to date, 2023, look at the exact same numbers. Some of those calls for service are up, some of them are down. Right now, we're on an annualized rate of 8,724 calls for service. And right now, we're looking at about 50% or 45% of the same number of arrests, less than last year. What's amazing to me is in 2022, we had a 6-minute and 9-second response time, average response time to every call, which is not acceptable, but it is what it is. In 2023, amazingly enough, we've shaved 39 seconds off of that. We're now at 5.5 minutes. Homelessness at the time of arrest in 2022, 7% of those people arrested total reported that they were supposedly homeless. 2023, that number's up to 14%. In 2023, 2 persons are duplicated from 2022 claiming homelessness. I'm not going to sit here and tell you that the police department has solved all this neighborhood's problems. I think it's a combination of the citizens in that neighborhood and what we've been doing. 75 very specifically dedicated hours from your police department have been spent in a 32 square block area. If we're going to make a change, it's probably another discussion to make some other time. But we can't continue to do this for every single neighborhood that has a problem. But at least this time, we've been successful. Any questions?
How many hours are the individuals, the citizens, putting in their watch groups? Do you know?
Couldn't tell you.
Okay.
Don't know.
Are they physically out on the streets, or are they just watching carefully from their windows and such?
They've been doing both.
Okay.
We had to kind of re-educate and continue to educate. I prefer to believe that they're excited, they want to make change, they can see some change. I can tell you that some of our response times are incredibly long because we were given wrong information. How do I specifically know that? Because I responded to the calls. And I've been here 25 years, Dr. A. I know my town. But when I'm on the phone with my dispatcher saying, where? What? That doesn't make sense. So when the citizen continually tells you to go look X, and you know X doesn't exist, but you continually keep looking, that's time ticking, if there was a crime. But they do both, sir. They've been out in cars, they've been out on foot.
Would you encourage citizens to form more of these watch groups?
Yes, sir, there's one that is in the process, I think, on 15th Street.
Is that the College Heights group?
I couldn't tell you.
Okay.
I've got an address, and I try to get our guys involved with the citizens. I think it's a resident on 15th Street.
Are you the point of contact on all that?
For which
For,
parts?
yeah, inquiring about watch
If
groups?
they want to inquire, I'll be glad to spend as much time as I possibly can with anybody. But I'm not going to be the liaison,
Okay.
and I'm not going to be joining a watch group. You know, that's the officer's job.
Right, right. But if a citizen wanted to call in, you'd be the first point of contact for a watch group?
Absolutely.
Or they call one
Sure.
of them? I don't know if you call one of the lieutenants or not, so.
So I just wanted you to know, because in my world, for 25 years, very frequently, I hear the phrase, the police don't ever do anything. And that's not accurate. I can prove it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Gigi, I do have a question. Are you starting to see more applicants? I know the last time we met that applicants for the police department were pretty far down but I've seen some advertisement and some recruit stuff. Are we seeing any uptick in
In reality,
applicants?
Ms. Dean, our applications are way up. They're exorbitantly up, but we can't get anybody to complete that paperwork. They will apply online, and that's just the first step. I'll give you a great example. I was in Brant's last weekend, not this past Saturday, but a week ago. And a guy introduced himself to me and said, "Do you remember me?" I'm going, I'm an old man. But I ended up remembering who he was. He said, "Man, I can't believe you're still working. Hey, we're hiring." So we have this conversation inside Brant's. He said, "I always wanted to do that." So I spoke to him. I said, "Man, go fill out the online application right now. Do it on your phone. Doesn't take 5 minutes." I said, "But when we send you the paperwork, follow the instructions." He's a good kid. He comes from good stock. I know his entire family. The worst application we have seen in years. Didn't follow instructions. It's DQ. You're gone. You can try again later. So, Ms. Kim, we get quite a few applications, but we get applications with incorrect phone numbers that have been disconnected, email addresses that don't work. Heck, you don't even live where you said you lived. So I don't have those percentages off the top of my head. Do we get a few good ones? Do we have one in the Citizens Academy right now that is looking pretty promising? Yes, we do. But I'd rather hire one good one than 10 bad ones. Applications themselves are up, but not the quality people who are making it through the process.
Anybody else? Okay.